Welcome to the show, everyone. I have with me a repeat guest. She was on West Coast Women Rising. Erin Hines is a human design business coach, and she was part of our launch. So you might have seen or heard about her since I was promoting the launch everywhere and anywhere I could. But I wanted to have her back on this show to talk about human design. I haven't really had that conversation yet. It's probably going to be the first of many, but I thought Erin would be a great person to start us off with the understanding of human design, and she and I can talk shop with the astrology versus human design. And so whether you're a business coach or not doesn't matter, or if you're in business for yourself, because this applies to everyone. So welcome to the show, Erin.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, JJ.
Well, I'd like to also let everybody know that if you want the longer form conversation about Erin's background, how she got to where she is and what she's doing now, she is episode 5 on West Coast Women Rising. So you want to go ahead and download that and hear her full backstory that we'll get to today, but in more detail and a lot more gold nuggets for different reasons on that show than we're doing today. So why don't you just give us the brief overview, Erin, of how you got to being what you're doing today?
So yeah, for me, a lot of it came from just getting a point in my career where I was like, what am I doing? Do I want to keep doing this forever? And I think so many of us could relate to this. It's like you kind of did all the things you were supposed to do. I went to college, got the degree, I got certifications, I got jobs, and it all looked great, but I was not happy. I started off in project management and then went to be a business analyst, and it was just being at a 9 to 5 was just draining me. But at the same time, I'm like, I still have 30 more years of doing this. So it's like this existential crisis I was having. And so I realized I gotta like figure this out now. And so I hired a purpose coach, and she really helped me answer a lot of questions that I was just like, how could I have never asked myself this? Like, what do you want your life to look like? What do you actually want? And I was like, oh, that kind of like burned, but it was also like this wake up call. Like, I don't know if I was necessarily living my life for me. It wasn't like I was miserable. I had a great family, I had all the things, but at the same time, it's like I wasn't necessarily I wasn't necessarily feeling super fulfilled in my work. And I think I really found like, well, no, I want to be fulfilled every day. I want to have some more joy and excitement in what I'm doing. And it wasn't like I didn't like what I was doing, it just needed to be in a different format. So I got inspired to start my own business coaching. I took all my business analyst skills and brought it over to my coaching. And I really loved it, just having the freedom to plan my days. I didn't have to be at an office. I could go take a nap in the middle of the day if my energy just wasn't feeling it. And so it all kind of just fell into place because I really looked inside, like, see, what do I want? And luckily, I didn't have a lot holding me down at the time that I was able to just start a business because I know not all of us have that. And so I was very lucky and grateful I was able to do that. And then about a year and a half into my business, I was on a networking call and they were talking about human design. I had no clue what they were talking about, but I'm into the wooey things. And so I decided to look it up afterwards, and it really blew my mind of how much it just saw me. And we could get into the details of what human design is in a minute, but I just felt so validated in knowing, like, okay, the way I was feeling all those years, it wasn't like something was wrong with me. It just, I was kind of conditioned to live a different way than I was really designed to be living to thrive. And so human design just opened up my world. And then I dug into it as much as I can. I started bringing in my client work, and it just really just transformed everything I'm doing, how I live, and just how everyone I help. I like to think of myself more as like a holistic business coach because I'm really tapping into all areas of your life. Like I'm looking for the root problem of why you're being stuck. And a lot of that could be personal side of that. It's just not your business. It might be the habits or the way that you're making decisions or the way that your energy is you're contradicting what your energy wants to be doing. And so I really step in and do more of a holistic whole life upgrade in the work that I do because of human design. And yes, you might not have a business if you're listening, but human design could be applied to like literally anything in life. So it doesn't matter what you're doing. You could use human design. And
Well, that's the reason why you and I are having this conversation. It's been years. I kind of been telling my audience that eventually I will do probably human design first. I don't know that I'll ever do Enneagram. And that's just because I have other systems. Like you said, human design saw you. In my this year, 2025, I'm not sure when this is going to publish. So I'm just saying in 2025, in the Rewiring Your Core Wound Pattern program, one of my clients who had been in therapy for 20 years, didn't really ever change for her therapy. In fact, I think she made it worse. Felt she didn't feel like normal, whatever that is. And then most of us actually probably don't feel quote unquote normal because we think it's something different than what we are. But she didn't know how to make sense of who she was, how she reacted to life. And so I have many different frameworks. Like human design to me is a framework. I have many different frameworks that we use in order to, and astrology was her most impactful one that really looked at her chart and said, this is who you are. This is the energy that flows through you. And this is how this energy behaves. It interprets things. It what it needs, what it doesn't like. And so from not from a good nor bad perspective, but from an this is what it is. And then if you want something different, here's what we have to do to balance that. And I know that human design does the same thing in a different way. But so I've always said that I don't want to add more systems if the systems I have answer the questions. So the reason why I'm wanting now to bring in human design, some of the benefits I think that human design, and I don't even go into mine as deeply as I know that I could, but just even the explanation of it's five types, right? Five or six.
Yep.
It's five. Okay.
Five, five.
So of the five, there is a validation that comes more simply from human design. Like you can dig for it in astrology, um, and it's there. I can answer, because it's so deep and very complex from the inner planets and the outer planets and your soul sign and all of that good stuff. And so you can find the information, but it's usually an overwhelm. People go to an astrologer or have an astrology reading and they're exhausted when they're done because they're like,
Mhm.
what? What do I do now? Because it's too much. And I get that. And I don't use it the way that people use it, but I like the simplicity of human design in it's sort of just five versus 12 and then multiple layers of 12 and 10 different planets and blah, blah, blah. But so I'd love to help start educate people on how they can use it, how they can self-identify, and also talk about some of the limiting beliefs that come from whether it be astrology, human design, core wounds, doesn't really matter, birth order. Sometimes we find a reason or a validation of who we are, and it makes us go, oh, okay, that's me, that's normal, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. And sometimes I wonder if we lean too heavily into those and they become upper limits for change, and we go,
Mhm.
oh no, I can't do that. Like they become limitations. So I want to kind of talk about that too. So let's start off with human design and give any kind of history you can and want to about what it is and how you got started with it and how it
Yeah.
got created.
Yeah. So human design is not that old. It came to Ra Ru, who is the founder, and it was in the 80s that he was just on a vacation. It all came to him and it was birthed. And so what human design is, it's really a blend of all ancient sciences like astrology, I Ching, chakras, and then combines it with some modern sciences like biology and physics and just basically how your energy flows. And so he combined this system based on your birth time. So it's like astrology. So your time, your day, your place, all of that creates this chart. And the chart basically tells you anything you want to know about yourself. And there's a lot of depth to it, but what really human design is about, it's the science of differentiation. So what that means is each of us humans has a different purpose in this world. And I like to think of it as like the world is giant puzzle piece or giant puzzle, and we're each individual puzzle pieces. And each of us has a unique shape. And when we fulfill our purpose and how we're designed to be, we all fit together in this perfect puzzle of the world. And unfortunately, by conditioning, if so much of us, I don't think any of us have not touched conditioning in our lives, we've been conditioned out of how we were designed to be. So it could be as simple as a kid, you were maybe too loud, you're too expressive, and someone told you you're too loud, be quiet. But you were here to be expressive, show emotion, and allow other people to feel that emotion. Like you had that purpose, but you've been told you cannot be loud, and so you suppress that part of you. And as you get older, there's other conditionings about your parents are telling you what career you need to do versus what your heart wants to do. And so through just childhood and in adulthood, we've been conditioned to be a certain way. We need to do certain things to be successful. And so human design really brings you back and deconditions you from those habits and things that you've been told you should be doing, when no, you don't need to be doing any of it if it's not making you excited. I really find human design as a way to bring you back to yourself so you could just be happier. And if we were all just a little bit happier, it's like just imagine how the world would be if we were just all living from this place of being our authentic selves and showing up and knowing however we show up that day is what the world needs. And I mean, human design could tell you specifically your purpose and your life's work and how you're here to communicate. But on the highest level is human design has 5 types. And you'll be one of those 5 types. It's generators. I'm a generator, and generators are about 37% of the population. Then there's manifesting generators, which are about 35% of the population. There's projectors, which are about 20% of the population, and there's manifestors, which are about 9% of the population, and then there's our reflectors, which are about 1%. And each of these human design types have a certain way you want your energy to flow so you feel more vibrant and energetic. And so generators and manifesting generators, we have endless energy as long as we're doing the stuff that lights you up. And so for me personally, when I'm doing a bunch of stuff, I'm just doing out of obligation, the people pleasing, just doing things I think I should be doing. I drain out so unbelievably fast. I burn out. I think that's exactly why I burned out in my last job because I wasn't doing work that really excited me. So the more that you could do work that excites you, the more energy you have, the bigger impact you're able to make. But where manifestors, projectors, and reflectors, they don't have that endless energy. They have a different purpose. Projectors are the ones that they're the ones that know things. They are the guides. And so they have a lot of knowing energy. So they're the ones that guide you to your next step. But they also have to be protective of their time and their energy because people see them as a fixer, someone that could save them, but they can't. So they have to be very cognizant of like, I can't help everyone. I need to take breaks. And that's how they re-energize themselves because they don't have endless energy. The manifestors are those that create new ideas. They're the ones that an idea pops in their head that's never been done before and they take off and they birth it into the world, but they also don't have a ton of energy. So they have to be very cognizant of delegating, asking for help, making sure they have the support system to make sure that whatever they're creating is birthed into the world. And then reflectors are only 1% of the population because they're literally the mirrors of the world. So they take in everyone's energy and they reflect it back out. So in a way, when you're talking to a reflector, it's kind of like they could be pulling up stuff you don't like about yourself, things that you might need to change. You're literally seeing yourself in them. It might be super positive and enlightening when you talk to them because you're basically they're mirroring you back out to you. And it's kind of fascinating, but because they take in so much energy from other people, they need a lot of downtime to recalibrate and re-energize because it's exhausting when you're constantly mirroring people back to them. And so human design, just knowing that alone can change a lot. Like knowing for me, like I really just need to focus on what lights me up. What could I do today that's just going to really excite me and do that? It might not necessarily make logical sense, but the more that I could just do the things that really excite me, the more energy I will have. And then the more energy I could give to those 3 types that don't have endless energy. In a way, I'm literally a generator and generating energy for others too. So it's kind of fascinating how all the types play together to make this kind of bigger picture of the world and kind of give us insight to our purpose and what we're here to do and how we kind of fit into the bigger puzzle of the world.
So is the system then, because you gave the percentage of the world,
Hmm.
all sort of how if everybody was living their dharma, so to speak, in human design, it would be balancing or
Hmm.
neutralizing of negative energies in the world, or like what would be the theory behind dividing the population up to say like you just said, you're a generator. I'm a manifesting generator. So if we're using all the energy or we're giving energy to those that don't have a lot of energy, like what's the viewpoint of that?
So what it's meant to do is that we all are different, and the more that we could just be ourselves, the easier the world, the more ease there will be in the world. And so, if you want to take it a step deeper into that, is me being a generator, I'm here to respond. Manifesting generators are also here to respond to the world. We're not here to come up with brand new ideas and just fly with them. It's we respond to those around you. You ask me a question, I respond to it. If you ask me an open-ended question like, what do you want to eat tonight? My mind often goes blank. Like, and knowing that, like, I used to shame myself from that because, like, why don't I know what I want to eat? But I need more to respond to than that. You need to start listing types of food, restaurants, or whatever, and then I could say yes or no to them. And so knowing that kind of makes it easier for me to, run my business, move through my life because it's like, okay, there's nothing wrong with me when my mind then goes blank. I just need to, like, could you ask that in a different way? I need a little more like context to figure out what I want. Or for like a manifester, it's really important that they take off with this idea that they have, this amazing idea, but they also need to inform people around them what they're doing because they could get this idea and take off with it. They could upset people because they don't tell anyone where they're going, what they're doing. And then they get annoyed with people when they interrupt, like, hey, where'd you go? You just left the house. So instead of just doing that, they could inform people that, hey, I am going to go do this. And it's not a permission thing, it's just telling people what you're doing. Your life is going to be so much easier as a manifester when you inform those around you because they're not going to interfere when you're in your flow and just like deep in your, you know, in work mode because you already told them, you informed them. Or with projectors, it's really important to know that you have all this knowledge, but you can't just share this knowledge because sometimes you know things the person doesn't know and you could provoke them and upset them, or they're not going to listen to your knowledge and take it seriously. So you need to wait for an invitation as a projector. You need to wait for someone to ask for help. Just don't butt in and say, I see you need help and wedge your way in there. It's like, well, no, the person needs to acknowledge, invite you in. They need to ask for your advice. They need to ask you to come into their world before you help them. And knowing these little things, it makes your life easier that there's nothing wrong with you because, like for projectors, you might see exactly what your team needs to do. You might see exactly what your spouse needs to do. But when you wedge your way in, you kind of seem like a know-it-all, and they might not be receptive to what you're saying to them. So if you know, like, just wait. They'll come to you when the time is right. And when the time's right for them, they're actually going to listen to your advice versus just blow you off and be annoyed with you. So knowing these little bits, the nuances of the different types, it really helps you like everyone just kind of flow a little better and see how we all are different in different ways and how our energy wants to flow, how life is going to be easier for us. Because when life's easier for us, it's less um, struggle, less frustration, less anger. There's just everything's kind of falling into place when we're releasing that control. And I think human design helps you release that control of the expectations other people have on you, the control of trying to show up in a certain way because you are different. Maybe you're different than the people around you, but understanding that, well, no, you are meant to be different because you're bringing something different into their lives and helping them grow in a certain way. And I think just helping people really understand that we're not all meant to be the same. And when you really embrace your human design, you're able to be different and just be happier. And so it's kind of this idea of everyone is just going to be happier and with more ease, and the world's just going to flow, and there'd be less. I mean, if you want to get into more, less wars, less arguments, all of, kind of those things that keep us from evolving. And so we're able to evolve more when we're just being our authentic selves and contributing how we are designed to contribute to the world.
So I think one of the reasons I wanted to talk about human design, and maybe we can do a little bit more on this subject, is about that energy expenditure. I think that was
Mhm.
because as I'm listening, there are, like for the projectors, the advice about not butting in. That's good advice for everybody. I
Yeah.
think don't be telling anybody what to do unless they're asking. Because I
Hmm.
created during COVID, I was rollerblading. I lived in South Bay for 20 some years and before I moved to Ojai. And I was rollerblading because I had a couple clients who, and just in general, I mean, I'm sure you have clients that don't listen to you or don't take your advice for whatever reason. And, even though they're asking for help. And I thought, you know what? If they're not asking, they're not listening. And that became a quote. I'm like, boom. And I like posted that and that became one of my quotes. If they're not asking, they're not listening. But that doesn't mean you couldn't say, would you be open to?
Mhm.
Or I see that you're struggling with there. Are you looking for, people that complain a lot or just negative, and people are like, well, I don't want that person calling me all the time. And it's like, well, you can ask them, are you calling me for a solution, or you just need me to hold the space for you to let out what's going on with you? So as I heard you talk about the projector, I mean, I think across the board that would be good advice for everybody. Just don't butt in all the time and give people advice they're not asking for it or aren't ready for it. And then the thing that you were mentioning about, and I want to know, so I'm a manifesting generator, and obviously that's two things. And then there's also like you're a generator and there's also a manifester. And so to me, like the energy differences between those, I'm very interested in. So I want to
Mhm.
talk about the energy, but I do want to mention, because you're saying what struck me about the projectors, because I think my ex-husband was a projector, and I'm like, I don't know that he had a knowing. He 100% had a know, like an intuitive knowing about things, but he also wasn't in a role in his life of like he gave advice to friends and stuff who looked to him for guidance in different ways, more spiritual, open, I guess. But when like the way you were describing it, I was like, yeah, but that wasn't his role in life, and maybe that if he understood that, that would be something to consider in the future for him. But where you were talking about like generators and manifesting generators respond to the world. Absolutely, I'm responding to the world. But what was life changing for me back in 2014, when before I started the podcast, I had gone to a writer's workshop. It was a Hay House writer's workshop, and at the time, Doreen Virtue, who was still Doreen Virtue, she is now a very different Doreen Virtue, but she's gone the other side. But she had all her books, and one of her books is Angels and Astrology, and I picked it up because I was fascinated by. She had gone a little bit deeper than I had at that time with certain planets, and Mercury being one of them. I had not studied Mercury until I opened her book, and I have a Mercury in Aquarius, which Aquarius is the visionary who sees the pattern coming before it happens. And it literally said that people who have Mercury in Aquarius will be the change makers changing the world. So while I'm a manifesting generator, I've got a Mercury in Aquarius.
Mhm.
So, and I'm sure that probably within human design, I know, when you go deeper into like, what are the parts
Yeah.
before we get to the energy? Because I want people to identify, if nothing else from today, besides the curiosity of doing their chart and maybe having a
Yeah.
reading with you, I'd like people to walk away with a validation of their energy, their flow of energy, their need for rest or need for balance in just the first five, the five different
Mhm.
manifesting generators. But before we get to that, can we discuss what the different, like for astrology, there's your inner planets, there's your outer planets, there's the houses. So like with human design, how does it get broken down when someone looks at a chart?
So the main thing is your human design top. That's like your type is kind of like the ruler. That's where everything will flow under it. Then there's centers which align with the chakras. So like you could have an open center or a defined center. And when it's open, you take in a bunch of other people's energies. When it's defined, you have that consistent energy. Um, then you could get down into more of the astrology side of it, where down each side of the chart, those are planets, and each of those planets has a different number, which is a gate, which correlates to I Ching. And so each of those numbers has a different meaning, and then associated with the planet has a different meaning. So, like, there's a sun, and then that has a meaning. So that's kind of like your life's work, your overarching energy, like astrology. And so you could get into the nuances of that. There's a Mercury gate that tells you how you're supposed to communicate. So you could get into that. And then below that, you could get into like your circuitry, how there's different channels within the center of your chart, which is there's a little body graph with the shapes and everything. There's different lines connecting the centers together, and those are your circuitry. So you could kind of get into the nuances of that and how your energy wants to flow between channels and how your gates connect to each other, because that creates a different energy when two gates with two different meanings come together, and then they kind of birth a new energy and a new meaning to it. And so there's a lot of layers to it. But if you're new to human design, focus on your type. So your type, and then there's a few different things for each type under that, like I talked about. how you make decisions. Each type makes a decisions in a different way. And so just focus on that to begin with. And then you can get in deeper once you kind of understand that because your type is kind of what rules your life and the or overarching theme.
All right, so let's talk about
Yeah.
type and the reason why I was ready to start this conversation on human design for myself too, because now, of course, I'm going to do a deep dive, right? Because I'm like, because I just don't need, when you have something that works, you don't need to add 10 more
Mhm.
tools. This tool
Yeah.
works. But then I thought, well, but the five types does give another level of energy management more simplistically. I
Hmm.
have in astrology, I've got three Sag planets. Sagittarius is the Energizer Bunny of the signs. So,
Hmm.
so in terms of, it matches in terms of I have a lot of fire, and the fire is energy. It's physical energy. So not just mental energy or emotional energy or stability would be Earth, right? Because you're a Taurus, right?
My signature, and I'm a Leo with a signature of Taurus. So I have more Earth planets
Yeah,
than
yeah.
Sun. Yeah.
Well, you definitely energetically, I can feel that when I'm in your presence.
Yeah.
You feel very grounded, which is very good. But let's talk about the energy management component of
Hmm.
the different types.
Yeah. So I'm going to talk about generators, but manifesting generators are very similar. So a manifesting generator is a combination between a generator and a manifester, but the generator energy kind of dominates the manifester generator. So I'll talk about the generator first, that side of it. So generators, they do have this endless energy as long as they're doing what lights them up. And so how you determine that is based on just really yes or no, listening to your sacral, your gut response. So when someone asks you something, it's really as simple as yes or no. And if it's a maybe, it's probably a no. So that's really that simple. None of us, like, it doesn't matter what type, we're not designed to make decisions with our mind because our mind kicks in. The logic, the fear, all that kicks in. So as a generator, listen to your gut. What does your body tell you? And it could be as simple as like you're leaning in or you're pulling back. There's body movements. You might make sounds, to know what's right for you. And really distinguishing that is the best way to make sure your energy is flowing how it should be, that you have that endless energy because you're saying no to the things that just aren't meant for you. And the more that you're able to say no, the more of the right opportunities are going to come your way that are really going to excite you. And for generators, you're never going to be 100% sure, and 80% sure you want to do something is a yes, like knowing that too. And if you're a maybe, it's probably a no. So really just tapping into your gut, working on that, even just simple questions. Where do you want to eat? Do you want to go to bed now? Just very basic questions where you could start building that gut, paying attention to what your gut's saying. And so there's also another layer in human design about your authority, and that's also how you make decisions. And so as a generator, I make decisions with my gut, but I have emotional authority. So on top of that, I need to pay attention to my emotional wave. So I cannot make decisions when I'm super excited, and I can't make decisions when I'm like super negative or down or depressed because those aren't going to be the right decisions for me. I need to wait, kind of wide my wave. If someone asks me a big question that's like a big life-changing thing, I need to say, I need a moment, I need a day, I need a week, I'll let you know because I need to get in that neutral emotional state to really make the decision that's right for me. Kind of just clear my head and tap back into clear the emotions, clear that, super high emotions and tap back into my gut response to make sure that, yes, I actually want to be doing this. I didn't say yes out because I was way too excited in the moment. And so all the different types have different authority, is what it's called. And so if you get your chart, it says specifically, generators either have sacral or emotional authority. So you're either just making a decision with your gut, or you're like me and I hear my gut, then I got to make sure where my emotions is and then come back to my gut. So it's a little bit of a wave. Um, so then also with that is, trusting that response. All you're here to do is respond. Everything is drawn towards you. You're here to just respond to what's brought to you. The right opportunities will be brought to you, and trusting that you will have endless energy. For the manifesting generators, it's the same thing. What is your gut telling you? What is it saying? Is it yes, no, maybe? Um, Manifesting generators, you can have emotional authority too. You have to pay attention on your chart if you do or not. It's really that simple, like generators. The more you do that's really exciting and brings you so much joy, the more energy you're going to have. And the more energy these two types have, the more energy the rest of us are all going to have, all the projectors, manifestors, and reflectors. So it's really about, I think all the types is just making sure you're doing stuff you really enjoy, but it's crucial for manifesting generators and generators because you give your energy to other people and you want to make sure you have as much energy as you can so other people don't steal it. Or you start, saying yes to a bunch of stuff you really meant no to, and then your energy is being drained, yet people are still wanting your energy and they're draining you and you start being resentful. And so the more energy you could have, the more that you're able to give to others. The fuller your cup is, the more you could give. Um, for projectors, their energy, it really has to do with wait for the invite, wait to have someone come up to you. That's when your energy is going to overflow the most. And this isn't a constant thing. If you're friends with someone, that's usually an invitation enough to share your mind. Like JJ was saying, ask, do you want to hear my opinion? That's really important for your energy. Um, Projectors, because you don't have endless energy, rest is your biggest like superpower. Like the more that you rest, you might get a big inspiration, go do that thing. But when your body tells you, like, you start getting a little drained, like, I need a break, take the break. Because in those breaks, it gives you time to rejuvenate, but it also sometimes gives you that space to see the next step. Because when you keep pushing yourself past exhaustion, you won't see the next step. That inner knowing starts getting quieter because you're so into what you're doing and you need those breaks to cultivate that knowing that you already have in with you. So breaks are so crucial to you. It doesn't matter. So don't pay attention to your generator friends or your coworkers or whatever. They have energy to just keep going. You do not. So take breaks. The more breaks you have, the more impactful you're going to be because you can get a lot more done than I can in a short amount of time because you're just super focused. But then you take that break and rejuvenate and then get more done. And it's just this cycle that you really need to lean into. For manifestors, like I said, it's really important that you inform people what you're doing, not for permission, just inform them so they don't interrupt your energy flow. Because the more they interrupt you, you get sidetracked and distracted, and you just start getting really angry because you want to be doing what you want to be doing. So that's the biggest thing for your energy. But it's also, you don't have endless energy either. So you will get this big burst of energy, get a ton done, and then you need a break. And then you rejuvenate. It might be a day, it might be 3 days, it might be a week that you need, but the more that you're able to take breaks, the more that the energy will come up, and then you could jump back into something. But it's also important to know with your energy is that sometimes you start something, but you're not always meant to finish it. So to sustain your energy, it's good to know like when's it time to delegate. So you create it, you start it, and then you hand it off. And so when you're able to do that, you're able to preserve your energy for the things that really excite you and that you want to be creating versus just like, I gotta finish this. You don't have to finish anything. Like if your body's telling you stop, it's time to stop and delegate it or just drop it or whatever it is that your body's telling you. For reflectors, your energy is very precious to you because, like I said, reflectors take in everyone's energy and reflect it back out. And so that takes in a lot of energy. And so it's for you, it's really, really important to distinguish, is this my emotion or is this someone else's emotion? Because when you're taking in all these people's emotions, and I think we all feel this at some point, if someone's like, really angry at you, yelling, you start to feel like you start getting angry because of that. But reflectors, that's like tenfold. They feel it so much more. And so giving themselves space to really make sure that they're in their own energy, they recalibrate, like, and distinguish that's not mine, that's just theirs. I don't need to identify with that emotion. And for them, it's also really important about their environment, who they surround themselves with. Make sure you're only surrounding yourself with supportive people so you're not taking in unsupportive energy because you're going to feel that more and you just won't be as, I guess, happy because you want to be supported and make sure your environment, it doesn't matter, just not people, but like, do you like your office? Do you like your home? Make sure it's just an environment that really energizes you because that's really important for you to get your energy too. And of course, alone time is really important for reflectors to recalibrate.
which makes complete sense.
Hmm.
Okay. I know this is a lot deeper than we're going to have time to go over today. Plus, I want to do a little of my own research and go back
Yeah.
and find all my information and even revisit sort of my past relationship too, because I think he was a projector, but maybe he was a reflector. Anyway, I'm curious. I'm curious and I want to see, I love when I learn something new that can obviously help me. I'm a sponge to learn new things, but they also have the capacity to say, yeah, it's not broken. I don't need to fix it. We're good here. I like this makes sense. This feels good. I don't need to. I'm not the person who, there are people who are searching for information. They're addicted to searching for information, but they don't actually use it. They don't
Yeah.
grow from it. It's just about taking in information, but not actually like embodying it. And like even there are even some sages. Sag is a sign of higher learning. And so it's like, oh, I'm going to go get this degree and this degree and this degree. Yet I'm not doing anything with any of them. It's a constant learning, but then there's the balance of what am I doing with it? Have I answered the question yet? I realized early on as I was consuming information, someone had said, well, how do you know all this? I said, because I sought it out. I asked questions, I learned, I read, I studied with people, but there was an endpoint to some stuff, not because I know it all, but because it answers my questions. It does the job it needs to do. But over the years, yes, human design has been creeping its way into, okay, it's about time to go this route and try this on and see what else you can glean from it in terms of anything that makes something more simple or gives me a little bit more clarity in another way. So we're starting this conversation, Erin. All right. So I know that you offer a free chart, right,
Hmm.
on your site.
Yes. So, human to get a chart, they're free anywhere. I mean, come to me. You enter your birth information, the chart's generated, you could download it. My chart specifically on my website, it gives a little more information. There's little like three dots next to what everything is, and then you could click that and it gives you a little summary of what that actually means. Because a lot of it you just stare at it and like, I can't read this at all. So I try to be a little helpful there. So that's a great place to start. Just get your chart, see what it looks like, see what type you are, and then you maybe come back. And listen to this and get a little more insight into what your type is. And then past that, I also do have an intro to human design report that'll be custom to your human design. So if you want to dive a little deeper, you could get that too. That has a just an overview summary of kind of a lot of what we talked about. It dives into a few different aspects that we didn't talk about today, but it's a really great spot to start and understanding who you are, how you're designed, how your energy wants to flow.
Perfect. All right. Well, everyone, we've started this conversation. Also, Erin has a podcast. Do you want to quickly tell
Mhm.
everybody about your podcast?
Yes, I do have a podcast. It's Rebel to Rise, where business meets human design. It's a lot of business strategy focused, but I do have a lot of just standalone episodes on just human design, so you could check it out. I dive into the types. I've done solid episodes just on your human design authority. If you want to, hear me talk about specifically your authority and how you make decisions, so take a look at it. There's a lot there, and even if, like I said, you're not a business owner, there's still a lot you could learn from learning about your human design and listening to my podcast too.
So check the show notes. Her website is darngoodbusinesscoach.com, but a link will be
Mhm.
in the show notes. You're also on Instagram
Yes.
and on Facebook, correct?
LinkedIn.
Okay, on
Yeah.
LinkedIn, and
Yeah.
definitely check out um, her podcast. Right, check out
Mhm.
her podcast. Podcast people like other podcasts, so check that out, and let's start this conversation. So, Erin, thank you so much for getting us started with human design, and I look forward to seeing you soon. And I hope everybody gets their chart done.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me.